A woman hears constant scratching inside of her head for years, then doctors discover the horrifying cause. Imagine never knowing the sound of silence. One may think it's a superpower to be able to hear almost everything around you, but for another it can be a curse to live with for the rest of their lives. That is what 32-year-old Gemma Cairns goes through every day, as she has a rare medical condition that forces her to hear her own blood course through her veins every waking second. According to a local news media outlet, Cairns didn't realize this was abnormal until she told her mother about it as a teenager. Cairns desperately tried to find answers for the next 14 years. At first, Gemma Cairns thought that everyone could hear the way that she could. After all, she never knew what it was like to not hear a constant whooshing noise or static or an incessant squeak from the back of her head. "There are always noises going on," Gemma said. "I've never heard complete silence." As a teenager, she finally realized something was wrong. She was alone in her inability to experience silence, and she knew it was time to seek help. This realization was the start of a 14-year journey for answers. For Gemma, there was only one way to describe what she thought everyone understood. "I've always heard my eyes moving and my heartbeat in my head." As one may expect, this was a strange complaint for doctors to hear. Where would a person go from "I can hear my eyeballs move"? For years, Gemma was prescribed medication for nasal issues and blocked ears, but nothing worked. Supersonic hearing, Gemma decided, was something she was born to endure. Besides, now that she was an adult, she had more important things to focus on, her son. But even caring for him became complicated. "I still go to work, but it affects things like playing with my son. If there are more than a couple of noises going on at once, it can overstimulate me," Gemma described. She lived her life in fear of loud noises, at least until one day that she couldn't live with the noise. In 2016, after moving to Glasgow in 2016, only did her luck change. After seeing a specialist, she was diagnosed with bilateral superior semicircular canal dehiscence. "I've been seeking a diagnosis for years and years. It wasn't until 3 years ago that they could tell me what this was. There was a point when I left it and decided I wasn't normal, but no one could help me. So what could I do? I come from quite a small town, and I'm guessing that the doctors and surgeons I saw just didn't have the medical knowledge of it," Cairns said. Apparently, Cairns is missing part of the temporal bone in both of her ear canals, which affects both her hearing and balance. Not only does the condition affect just 1 to 2% of the population, but it only starts happening to people in their 40s. Gemma was in her 30s when she visited the specialist, but she had been experiencing this condition since birth. What makes the condition so difficult to diagnose and treat is how specific the symptoms are to the individual. Some people go through years of psychiatric therapy before realizing the problem isn't in their brain, and seriously disturbing symptoms are left untreated. Some people find that their eye movements are in sync with their pulse, meaning they're always sensing motion. Others constantly hear the vibrations of their own voice, and if you're like Gemma, this can make hearing anything at all a challenge. "With some frequencies, I just can't hear at all. I really struggle with deep voices," she explained. To anyone without the condition, hearing these descriptions of it is terrifying. But Gemma was always aware of how much worse her situation could be. "Sometimes I just want to sit and not hear anything," she admitted. "I feel bad saying it because it's not like I'm dying, but it does take its toll." Imagine feeling constantly dizzy and off balance. That was Gemma's everyday life. But maybe not for much longer. Gemma's specialist gave her hope for the first time by suggesting a procedure that would correct the problem in each ear. Still, of course, the surgery didn't come without its risks. For one, the surgery could only be done in one ear at a time, meaning Gemma would be bedridden with intense dizziness and tinnitus during the recovery period. With only one ear corrected, it would mean going through the painful surgery process twice. She figured it's worth taking the risk, so she underwent surgery in one ear last September, and is awaiting surgery on the other side. If successful, it'll be the first time in her life that she'll experience complete silence. Cairns' first surgery corrected the problem of her right ear. Braving the risk of losing her hearing in her left ear, she's ready to double down and get the second operation. "You can't operate on both at the same time," she said, "because it knocks you completely off balance for a while." Cairns has come a long way from feeling constantly drunk and desperately seeking help from doctors who thought she was crazy. Her upcoming surgery should put an end to her lifelong struggle with this condition. She hopes her story will spur others to keep their heads up. "It's a rare condition, but I think it's more undiagnosed than anything else," she said. "I think people have it, but they don't know how they can get help." She is thankful that she met a specialist who was able to help her experience one common thing: silence. A lot of people can experience a moment of silence, and it can sometimes be taken for granted. But not for Gemma. It's now leisure. She can start to appreciate it.